and I'm pleased to have Klaviyo with Ruroc, and they're going to be talking about flip the funnel, use data and personalization to ensure new customers actually convert. Welcome Paul Cartridge, who is the head of CRM and web at Ruroc. How are you, Paul?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. And then we have Tiffany Mills, who's the Senior Customer Success Manager at Klaviyo. Hi, Tiffany.
Hello.
Good. And then finally, we have Matt Serwin, the Strategic Partnerships at Klaviyo, who's currently dialing in from the States, I believe, right?
I am. Morning and afternoon to everybody.
Yeah, we're winding down and you're waking up.
I'm jealous.
So yeah, Paul, Tiffany, and Matt are gonna really have a conversation around personalization and looking at how customers have converted with Ruroc. So this is going to be a really insightful talk, getting a merchant's feedback, in real time. So feel free to put questions in the chat or the Q&A, and I'll do my best to loop back to Matt. So over to you, Matt.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, really excited. We have some great content to go through today. But to kick things off, I'd like to let Paul have the opportunity to tell us a little bit about your background and what it's been like working at Ruroc.
Yeah, sure. So my background is mostly in sports CRM. So working across rugby, football, some big international events that side. I moved to Ruroc in September last year. So I'm like 9 months in now. Started off as a CRM manager, but recently moved up to look after the CRM and website side. So I've been working with Klaviyo throughout that time on some really exciting product launches and a whole new brand that we launched early this year. So yeah, it's been a really exciting period for us.
Oh, it's going to be great. Look forward to exploring that further today with you. So appreciate it. And Tiffany, tell us a little bit about what a CSM from Klaviyo does and how you support Ruroc in your conversations with them.
Yeah, perfect. So as a customer success manager, my main responsibility is to provide customers like Ruroc with the strategic guidance, which is focused around their desired goals and on business objectives, whilst also proactively educating them on best practices to drive, most importantly, ROI within Klaviyo.
Of course, always something we're all very focused on. But yes, thank you again for both being here. And Paul, you mentioned the product launch piece, so I think that's a great place to start. You've seen amazing results with this. Most recently, the Atlas 3.0 launch, which is a few months ago now, and that was record-breaking for you, generating about $1 million in just half an hour. So would love to just start there with, what made this such a success, the channels that you leveraged for it, and then anything else to kind of, build that strategy out and what you experienced with that launch.
Sure. Yeah, well, it helps first and foremost. I don't know if anyone's seen our helmets, but they're really stunning designs, and it's something that really stands out in the marketplace straight away. So from a marketing side, it really helps us create the content from that. Campaign strategy is something we've really got nailed down now. We do these kind of launches quite frequently, like 3 or 4 times a year across moto, snow, and now the motorbike apparel industry as well. So we've got a great team of content creators and developers across social media and websites. So it's really utilizing these guys and all the content they're creating to put out really engaging stuff for our fans who we have a really good close relationship with. For this Atlas launch campaign, we put a lot of budget towards a kind of Apple style live premiere, which was the first time we've done that. So we had our CEO and some key people in the development and engineering team live speaking about the developments and all the exciting things that were new in the helmet. And also we used a really famous music video producer from Manchester, who's worked on a lot of kind of hip hop videos, which kind of fits into our style, to produce this like trailer that showcased all the designs, and that was really cool as well. So it's getting across all that stuff and educating people on all these new features that come with the helmet. Our data growth was really, really strong ahead of that. So we had about a 2-month run time from announcing that the helmet was coming out to grow our database. And we managed to add like 300,000 new users over that 2-month period. And it was about kind of getting them involved and educating and exciting them about what's new in the product. And all that kind of came together for launch night, which we always do at kind of 12 midnight to attack the US market. And yeah, really successful, great couple of days sales, and the first week was, you know, enormous. So yeah, really good process.
That's awesome. I mean, congrats to you and the team putting that together. I really like and can appreciate, you know, the integrated approach that you took with that, of looking at different areas of, you know, the funnel, finding ways to build that interest early on. And obviously, you know, really important to be connecting with that audience early on. I mean, to grow a pre-launch list by that much certainly shows that you were hitting, you know, the right messaging to your audience. So I think that's really great. Tiff, from what you've seen with other product launches and just in your experience, what really stood out with the Atlas launch?
I think, like, to Paul's point, keeping the content like engaging enough. So a lot of it was, I think you meant you're going to probably talk about this in more detail, but you partner with Nifty. So making sure that, you know, not only are the content is engaging, but also like interactive to keep the subscribers interested, for sure.
No, that's great. I guess we'll explore like the email marketing side of this a little bit further, because as a channel, email makes up, I believe, about 1/3 of Ruroc's revenue. So you've nearly doubled that in the last year. So Paul, can you take us through, like, what are some of the core things that you have implemented through your work with Tiffany and with your team that has made like the email marketing channel so successful?
Well, we're quite unique at Ruroc and very lucky to operate this way, but we're one of the only helmet manufacturers in the industry to sell direct to consumers. So we know a lot more about our consumers. We have a lot more two-way communications with really strong communities that we've developed. And it's kind of this influence we use to adapt our email strategy to what they want. And also we use that for our product development as well. It's just a really strong two-way communication and feedback loop that we've developed there. And that's one of our key strengths in the market. On the email side, we really focus on the content side, making sure we're not just selling to people, but we're showing them cool videos, imagery, and really showcasing our products to the best that we can.
I think sorry. I was just going to say, you also collect other information outside of Klaviyo, so a lot of like profile properties, don't you? Yeah. So we've got, Klaviyo is one of the best systems I've seen in kind of bringing all that information through, from sales, from previous activity, from what they're clicking on, what they're looking on our website. So all that we use to influence what we say to people and where we place them in our funnels. So that kind of information is all utilized, and emails are changed, and we use the flows to really adapt that messaging for different people and the products that they might be interested in based on that knowledge.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, as we continue to see e-commerce develop, you're really starting to get the consumer expectation that it has to be the right message at the right time. So that content piece, I think mentioning that is huge. You know, people don't want to feel like they're being sold to all the time. And I think that's a popular misconception that's out there, where, you know, you don't have to be selling in every email that goes out. Like, you can be generating really interesting content, and that, you know, pulls people closer to the brand. So, you know, definitely a great strategy that you're implementing there. And then Tiff had mentioned about nifty images. So can you talk a little bit more about how you're using that for personalization and what that's done?
Sure. So for anyone who's not used them before, they allow for personalized imagery. So I know a lot of people will use people's names in body text, but with Nifty, you can put that into your graphics. So we're using that to personalize the main image of a email rather than just little bits of copy underneath. At some point now, we've got our own factory that we're using to manufacture our helmets. Potentially we might get down to the customized helmet kind of level, and that kind of thing. You can really kind of add that into the helmet, wrap it around, and position it so it looks like it's part of the product. There's also great things in that they can change the emails for different timings. So we, quite a lot around launch, email people just before who've asked to be notified. And we could use that functionality to change the messaging after the launch date to make sure it all changed to show that it's live now and they can shop straight away. And countdown timers that were really like, we use them all the time to drive time sensitivity, whether it's in the run up to a launch or to promote the end of an offer that people need to get online to take advantage of. So there's loads of cool things we can use to really bring those emails to another level that's more dynamic and more interactive for the users.
No, that's really great. I wasn't familiar with them prior to you mentioning it. So I think that's really cool for like really pushing that personalization element to, you know, new heights in a way. So I think that's great. That complements, you know, the work that you've already been putting in. I think so. Going to the next thing, another really significant challenge that you've been successful with is, you know, being able to balance multiple product lines, which is not the easiest thing, and one of the more frequent questions that comes up in this space. So, would love to hear, you know, what you've done in that space with Ruroc and Engine Hawk, and how you've been successful in taking something that was working really well, adding something totally new, and being able to use, you know, personalization with having it be under two separate brands.
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of split our activity into 3 strands. So originally when we started manufacturing helmets, we were exclusively for snow. Then 3 years ago, we moved into the moto market as well with the Atlas One helmet. And it's been that kind of move that's really inflated our growth and made us grow so quickly. And off the back of that success, we also launched the Engine Hawk brand as well. So it's always been a kind of struggle, especially for Ruroc. The social media team will tell you more than anyone that when we started that moto side, it became that we disengaged with the snow side. So we've had to kind of create separate accounts and build audiences from scratch. But in Klaviyo, we've kind of been able to keep one core database, one single customer view, but break them down into those 3 areas and market them differently, and also try and build Engine Hawk, which we started from scratch this year. Use that Ruroc Moto audience to grow that side, and you know we've grown that to kind of 200,000 engaged audience on Klaviyo already, and you know for a new brand that's incredible. We were already surpassing the audience and following of some really established motorcycle apparel brands, so it's been really good for that. And yeah, we can then target everything differently. So it's very rare that we'll have someone who's into moto and snow, so we're able to kind of really mine down and treat everyone differently and make sure they're receiving emails that are relevant to them. There's still some historic kind of MailChimp data. We only moved over to Klaviyo just this, I think it was start of 2020. So we've got some people who are in MailChimp who we don't know too much about, but we utilize the kind of the functionality in Klaviyo to tag people based on what they interact in emails. So quite quickly we can register whether they've got an interest in snow, moto, or whether potentially we should just cast them to a side for a bit and then focus on the more engaged audiences.
And when you talk about like shown the most interest or engagement, you're referring to like opens, clicks, viewed on the website. You incorporate all of those extra, you know, engagement metrics into your segments, don't you, to make sure it's obviously more personalized.
Yeah, those segments become quite long lists of different things we can make use of. But yeah, all that kind of goes into getting an understanding of what their interest is.
It's a great example of being able to go beyond that surface level of segmentation and really drilling down, because, you know, as we highlighted, it's very challenging to balance, you know, these two different strategies and brand lines for a lot of businesses. So what you've done there is really impressive. I'd like to hear, Tiff, anything else to add in that sense of like that challenge that exists and how Ruroc has, you know, navigated through it successfully?
I think the segmentation is really key to Ruroc strategy as well. So, you know, as Paul mentioned, the not only what people are interested in terms of the types of products, but also the engagement within the email, and also being able to track the activity across the website, is actually just the, you know, making sure, like you said, Matt, adding that extra level on top of making sure that you're sending the right content to the right people and at the right time. I would say that's like the core strategy to kind of overcome that key challenge.
Makes sense. I mean, being able to have access to more data types and fields since they've migrated over, I think has clearly made this a lot easier to do. So that's great.
One thing I forgot as well is we also, because we're such a global company, we translate our emails into a lot of different languages. So every time we send something out, we're segmenting it by 8 different languages of our core markets. So that's something that's really useful tool to do, and Klaviyo is quite different in what I've used to before, in that when someone signs up, it's automatically the signing country. So that's been a really useful thing to have kind of 100% coverage of where people are on our database.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, that's another one of those unique challenges, especially as you scale the brand and generate this audience, that you know, people need to understand that that's part of the planning process if you want to continue to grow, especially in markets where there's not as much language overlap. So yeah, I'm glad that's working out well, and, you know, plays into that strategies that we were talking about more broadly for the product lines, and then needing that differentiation into translation as well. Yeah, very exciting with that. So next piece, you know, with email being so successful for you, I'd like to hear just generally, like, what are some of the most successful emails that you send? And what are you seeing some of the highest open rates with in terms of like types of emails that might be triggered through Klaviyo's automations?
I think it is the automation that's really been a game changer since I started here. When I started, we only had, I think it was one upsell and one browse abandonment that kind of worked across all our helmet range. We've really developed that. We've got literally hundreds of flows and emails set up across different languages and across every single different helmet we produce. And it's the kind of browse abandonment, the abandoned basket that really we put a lot of effort into and really drive like millions of revenue for us every year. We've kind of took it to the next level from what I've seen other companies do, in that we have different emails for every helmet, and it's not just pulling through one kind of static product shot. We're using all the imagery we have access to give the users a real kind of a showcase of how they look on bikes, how they look in different settings, and also different features for different helmets that really make it stand out from other helmets we do or other helmets that other competitors do.
I think that's really cool in the sense that there's not a lot of brands, like even outside of like this type of vertical, that are doing that. And it really does stand out from, you know, as me as a consumer, when I see a company sending me something that's clearly, you know, tailored and making use of like the imagery to stand out, I think that's really cool, because not everybody puts that level of effort into it, but it does make a difference, even if it's not something that the consumer realizes is happening. So I think that's really amazing. So I'd like to know, like, is there anything that you are currently thinking about testing or implementing that might be new in terms of the strategy for whether it's automations or anything else within your overall email plan?
I think the main thing that I want to prioritize at the moment is our post-purchase flows. We've got the kind of basic things in there at the moment. There's a lot more we can do with that in terms of moving people into our communities and getting them to share pictures and discuss with other people, review our helmets on Trustpilot or YouTube, which a lot of people are using before they kind of commit to buying, which is it's a big ticket product, you know, it's quite expensive. So people really want to have that that level of knowledge on what they're buying before. And then just engage with people based on where they are. So really want to look at building on that community piece and encouraging people to use the helmets. So showing people recommended rides in their area, and potentially we've got an app in development at the moment where we can really bring that into one place and have those communications between riders and let them link up and use our Bluetooth technology that's in the helmets to talk to each other and organize meetups and some things like that. So there's really some exciting things we can do with the post-purchase flow that's beyond the normal kind of send a survey and reviewers kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that definitely rounds out like the funnel discussion and post-purchase piece that is crucial. I mean, you gave more really strong examples of, you know, again, content that's not directed at selling, but brings people closer to the brand, which is obviously a huge win these days. Tiff, anything that you've seen from a post-purchase aspect in your experience that works really well or similar, you know, to what Paul's talking about?
So I think anything such as like refer a friend, asking people to share content, asking people to review, asking for feedback is like a good opportunity to ask people when they've had a successful buying purchase with you, because they're most likely to, you know, give that information. I always find that, you know, if you get the whole customer service process, you know, down to a T, then it's going to be a lot easier for brands to try and upsell and cross-sell on other products, you know, a week after they've made that purchase. So I think, like I say, getting the transactional pieces done, you know, successfully, and then trying to like upsell, cross-sell would be a lot easier for brands to do.
Yep, that makes sense. I mean, especially when you're talking about the multiple product lines and the opportunity to use that data. And the reviews piece, I think over the last year, I've seen a lot of articles just emphasizing that, because we had a lot of new people come into e-commerce in the past year that hadn't previously utilized it. And so reassuring people with those excellent reviews and referrals is a really important piece to focus on, which kind of leads us into another question to talk a little bit about customer retention, because we know one of the largest costs that any brand faces is acquiring new customers. So Paul, tell us, you know, what are you doing after someone visits the Ruroc website or subscribes to the brand to make sure that you're building upon that relationship and guiding them through the journey?
Yeah, so a lot of our kind of strategy around launches is building that audience. A lot of our paid social budget goes into that. So it's making sure we take them step by step through everything they need to know. So we utilize flows to kind of make sure people are getting that information at the right time and the right place from when they have joined us. We also use the flows quite a lot to grow our community. So we've got some really engaged people on our Facebook groups for the Ruroc Motorcycle Gang on the Ruroc side, and the task force on the Engine Book side that's been absolutely massive in launching that brand. We've got some like properly enthusiastic people in that group who are having communication and talking to people in our team and seeing inside information on designs and giving feedback on the development of those kind of products. So much so that we actually had someone from that group turn up at our office yesterday, wanting to say hello to someone they've been talking to quite a lot on there. So it's that kind of thing that really increasing the two-way communication with people when they join us. And it is quite a long life cycle before people purchase. Obviously, we can influence that by when we have launches, and that's obviously a big boost in sales. But we do need to keep engaging them and talking to them and educating as they kind of run through what sometimes can be a 6-month sale process from when they first join us.
No, I mean, that's just really impressive in the sense that, like, there's a lot of brands that would do anything to get that kind of engagement. And that is what continues to build upon, the great work that your team is doing, to see that, even if it's not measurable at times, like being able to see that. That's a great story about people showing up at the office. Like, you're building that level of connection that people are so passionate about the product. I mean, and that's ultimately what helps drive, everything else, but it's from the hard work that you're putting in for that personalization and the content pieces. So great work by everybody. Tiff, anything to add on the customer retention strategies in general, and things that you found really interesting?
I think working with Ruroc is quite unique, as in they've got such a good, as we've just heard, a community base, and it's quite special actually. The product itself is tapping into people who's got a real passion for a particular hobby, so they like that sort of community aspect, and that's something I would say that Ruroc does really, really well, to utilize that community piece for retention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're getting close to wrapping up. So I got 2 last questions, and then I'll open it up if anybody has anything else that's watching. But Paul, tell us, what will be the most important part of Ruroc's digital strategy the rest of this year and then beyond 2021?
I think our focus is going to be to continually rapidly building that following and database. We've got amazing plans for apps that utilize that kind of community spirit we have and really take that to the next level in a kind of digital sense. And also advancing our kind of Bluetooth technology within the helmets to allow for that. We've got big plans to launch a new website that should increase the level of interactivity there as well, and let people really customize their helmet and see what that will look like before they buy it. So we've got such a great range of decals for our helmets and visor colors that people can really mix and match and create their own kind of design. So that's something we really want to put across on the website, and like I said, kind of completely overhaul and improve our post-purchase automation to really make us a benchmark that other people look to and our customers really appreciate once they've purchased their helmets.
Oh, that's great. The customization piece, I think, really stands out. You're seeing a lot of brands go that route where they can, and that's a unique feature. As you mentioned earlier, being a provider that goes direct to consumer where most others aren't in that space. You're now just taking that experience to a totally other level, and creating further distance from competitors. And I think that's something anybody can learn from in a space where they're having that level of access and competing against people that might not have evolved as quickly. So yeah, I think that's really exciting. Look forward to seeing what you and the team put out going forward. And I guess for both of you, as we wrap this up, what advice would you give to brands looking to increase their customer retention, especially at a time where, marketing is shifting quite a bit in terms of privacy and different tools that may have been more relevant that might not have the same access anymore as we look at, the things that have gone on with iOS and plans around, cookies and pixel tracking, and just rising, ad cost in general. So what advice would you give to other brands out there, how they can work on their customer retention?
I think the biggest thing we do and focus on is the two-way conversations with customers. So not just asking for feedback and not taking it in, but getting that feedback and using it to develop everything you do, from product design to what colors you're choosing, all those insights you get from them, utilize them and change the way you work based on that.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing that has got Ruroc and now Engine Hawk where it is today. It's that listening to our customers and adapting the way we work.
Yeah, going to echo Paul there. It's one thing collecting that feedback, but it's also acting upon that and shifting yourself to be more personalized to those individuals. I think that's going to be really crucial for brands throughout the rest of the year. It's like I say, gaining that feedback and then making sure that they're communicating in the way that they want to be. So I'd 100% echo what Paul's just said there.
Yeah, those are great. I mean, there's so much value in what you're talking about there in just multiple aspects of it. I mean, not only are you showing, the customer base and prospects that you care and want to hear from them, but you're getting valuable information to act on and, develop products or just deliver better personalization. And again, that's something that, I understand it's not easy. It takes a lot of work and a lot of people from the team to step in and make that happen. But ultimately, that's what can create, a really great brand experience and keep that, customer lifecycle value and everything kind of continuing on. But yeah, thank you both for all the great insights and sharing what you've been working on. And very impressive, and look forward to seeing more of it in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it.